Welcome to Private Equity Profits. Clifford Locks is a certified board of director, a trusted confidant to CEOs, C-level exec, and high-potential employees to help them clarify goals, unlock their potential, and create actionable strategic plans. Seth Greene is the nation's foremost authority on growing your portfolio companies with direct response marketing. He is the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination LLC, and he is an 8-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes Inc., CBS Money Watch, and many more. Cliff and Seth interview top players in the financial sector, focusing on private equity firms, venture capital companies, and family offices, discussing developments and trends shaping the industry. These experts will share with you how they've grown their businesses and increased profit, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Cliff Locks.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Private Equity Profits Podcast. I'm Cliff Locks, your host. And today our guest is Joshua Steinberg, CEO of Next Gen Restorations and the principal of Driven Acquisitions, a holding company that owns and operates apartment buildings. His restoration company he started with his wife, and today is the #1 roofing company in the state of Ohio. Joshua was the first ever recipient of the prestigious BBB Spark Award, which is bestowed upon entrepreneurs that are 35 years old and younger, whose business are less than 3 years old. The BBB Spark Award is important as it cultivates the 3 C's of trust: character, culture, and community. These distinguished individuals are the future of the trusted marketplace, who are creating businesses that will transform and enhance the communities they serve. The goal is to inspire all of us, and they're just getting started. Joshua, thanks so much for being here today and sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks, Cliff. I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I appreciate it, Joshua. Tell me about your background and how you got started on the journey that brought you here and to where you are today.
Many, many moons ago, I grew up in a blue-collar home. My dad was a carpet installer for his entire life. He wasn't a young guy as his life would go. I was able to kind of watch his body fail on him over my first 20 years of life. He died when I was 18 years old. I guess it probably took me about 20 years from when he died to really look back and see how pivotal that moment was for me moving forward in my career path. But essentially, I grew up in the trades. I grew up right out of high school. I went straight into roofing for a local roofing company, assumed that my job in life was to do something with my bare hands and create something. And what ended up happening through, kind of that chain of events, I found out in life, you're not, your body can't handle that life for an extended period of time. So I started looking out of that space. So what put me on this path was his death, and then compiled with my next opportunity immediately following that, looking into sales and marketing, circa 2004-ish. The movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was big. Spelunking monster back then. There was an opportunity that came across for a marketing executive in Cleveland, Ohio. In my head, I pictured Matthew McConaughey's character in this movie selling diamonds and beer commercials and the advertising process to that. And I felt a deep connection to what that could be. So I applied for the job and followed through all of their marketing material for their business, et cetera, in Cleveland. And come to find out during the interview process, me being 19 years old, significantly underqualified in the event, that was actually where I was going in to be as an executive. For lack of another word, it was a door-to-door sales position. And I didn't even realize that I was being, to a degree duped into door-to-door, because I had my head so focused that this was the job that I was buying into. This is who I was going to be. The guy on the other side of the desk from me said, here's the path for you to go from here to here. And at the end of the rainbow is you become me, and I hand you an office, just like ours here. The who and the how there completely went away. And I assumed all of that was a fast forwarded situation. I got on the merry-go-round doing door to door for a handful of different companies for 3 or 4 years. until my stepdad at the time. Fast forward 4 years, my mom remarried to a guy that ran and operated a commercial construction company.
Good.
I got a random phone call that said, hey, the market's this is 2008 now.
Right.
The market's crazy now. And all of our giant commercial contracts with Burlington Coat Factory and all these other companies are on pause or potentially going away. And there's huge market uncertainty. I don't know what to do with this. But a friend of a friend of a friend here in Cleveland, there's this huge opportunity with restoration and the insurance companies, whether or not the housing market's popped and nobody has money, they have billions of dollars to spend on all the repairs that homeowners have that, shingles blow off their house during a storm, et cetera, trees fall on houses. And so they have a need to get done, and whether or not they can afford it's irrelevant because insurance is going to pay for it.
Very good.
So we got the company. I know how to operate the crews and do the construction stuff, but I don't have any background in sales. He's coming to me with that. I don't know how to find the customers. And so as a door-to-door guy, we figured, well, I have the ability, if I had a customer in front of me that had a tree laying on their house, I have no problem going and knocking on that door and saying, hey, ma'am, I'm sorry this is happening to you, but I think we could work together here and solve your problem. You come back here and you outline a design and figure out how to sell the product and we'll go into business together. 2008, it's all I've done since then now. So we're going on, was that 12, 13, 14 years?
Yeah. You got yourself a career there. You paid your dues. I'm proud of you. It's funny you bring up your dad. I had a series of 5 international auto shows where I sold it to Motor Trend. We put out 300,000 square feet of carpet. And it was tough. It's on a concrete floor and they're using double-faced tape because it's a temporary install. And you could see it being tough on people on their knees. Yeah. I've been on my knees to take a look at it just to have appreciation, of what the team members were doing there. And it was a union shop. So the idea I had to join the union to make things go smooth, and it was not a problem. It's good to put people to work. At the end of the day, good scale wages allow them to, take care of their families. And I think that's important too. So you've grown your company, Next Gen Restorations, into the biggest in Ohio. How did you achieve the growth, and what challenges did you face along the way? How did you overcome them?
So my growth has been nothing shy of explosive, mostly because I have allowed all of the dumb tax in business to be paid by other people. So I had probably that second year that I was in business with my stepdad, we had gone to a roofing seminar that had, the normal seminar deal. They got speakers that are pitching you all the different classes and coaching programs. It's more prevalent now, but it wasn't back then. But one of the guys that was actually in that circle was Grant Cardone. And so, Grant Cardone back circa 2008, 9, 10 was not nearly on the nation's stage that he is now, people knowing him and all of that. So we got in, it was just him and 3 other guys in his office. It was his first start into getting back into that market of doing seminars and what that was. Spoke on real estate and sales and marketing. And for me, it was a matter of, as we were hiring people at that time, going down that lane of, how do I funnel and train efficiently a large group of human beings? One-to-one, I can only do so many people here as we go, but I need systemized training. And at the time, he offered a training platform that allowed me to kind of plug everybody in. Here you go, watch the videos, follow through. That'll train you enough to where I can take you then and talk about specific product stuff, and you'll become a well-versed, fully rounded salesperson. But within that, it was my first foray into hiring essentially a coach and getting early on into mastermind conversations and networking and groupings, to where I got around a lot of really, really smart people and a lot of really so very wealthy. And as a young person, one of the things that stuck out to me heavily as far as, like sayings and things go, or find the 5 people that you want to be around and have the things that you want to have. And if you hang around them enough, you'll eventually be the 6th person. And so I sought out early on to find all the people that were in industries that were parallel, that were doing the same things that we're trying to do, in order to make massive impacts and growth as far as the business itself goes. Having a background in sales and acquisition of clients made it very easy for me to go out and grab cash. But I lived the first 8 years of business in a very cash flow positive business model without taking hardly any money out of the company. Second year, we did $6 million. Third year, we were a $10 million company, and I took a $92,000 a year salary. And any disbursements that were made from the company all went into the sacred sideways account that at some point or another would become its own, making babies kind of thing. It's not my money to spend. We weren't looking at lavish things. I lived in a fairly small house, comparatively speaking to, life nowadays, for the income level that I was making at the time as a young person. And so following Grant, one of the big things that I had then in a parallel industry was he was helping me train a bunch of people, but speaking regularly about real estate. And so I spent a lot of hours on YouTube and online watching and learning how to underwrite commercial real estate and understanding all the terminology and the math and to a point where I could figure out the business model of each individual property if I were going to look at it. As a young guy, that probably I was never going to qualify for a loan of anything I was trying to look at. Found a couple of local brokers that would take me out and around and show me properties. And, we looked at, I kissed a lot of frogs before any one of them ever turned into a prince. But because I spent so much time staring at these, essential algorithms of the math of underwriting and understanding the real estate for the eventual purpose of dispersing and putting that honeypot that I was sticking aside into, to where it was going to have use. When I finally bumped into one and somebody showed me a deal that was, available on market, or was actually coming to market. And I was in the right place at the right time with the right information that immediately I was able to recognize that it was a good situation and a good opportunity for me to get involved with and then take action on it. First property I bought was 72 units.
72 apartments, residential. Okay, good for you. Okay. That was one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when you began to invest in real estate, tell me about that first investment you made in real estate, and you did a nice job there. So you did your homework on the front end, and at that point you were able to pull the trigger. You also had a nest egg. Who did the financing at that point? Did you use one of the individuals in your mastermind, of wealth, or you went to the bank at that point and got yourself a mortgage?
Kind of parallel in that situation. So one of the guys that was in my network there is a big guy up at Marcus and Millichap, and he's a young guy. He's a little younger than I am even, but he's the guy that closes all the big stuff over there. And so same thing, the thing that people don't realize, I think, is they get this analysis paralysis. Right. Before they want to send anything to the bank, they want to make sure it checks all these boxes off and it's this perfect, buttoned up deal. It can be sloppy if you got partners where you're working on property like that to say, hey, the bank is my partner. If I'm going to go buy $1 million, they're going to give me $1 million. They're a partner of mine. We're shoulder to shoulder. It's not something like you're going to go buy a car and they're like, hey, I just threw you some cash, whatever. It's a couple bucks. When you're getting $1 million that they're writing a check for, they are shoulder to shoulder partners. They're checking over the financials. They're looking forward on cash flow analyses. And, so, hey, here, I've underwrote it. It looks good. So I send it over to Chris and say, hey, Chris, what do you think? Does this make sense to you? Are you seeing the same things that I am? Or do you see a blind spot here that I should be aware of? Beauty is that technology allows, guys in that space to, click and insert a couple different data points and go, as a rough thing before I dig, really deep into this on the surface, that does make sense or it doesn't. Obviously, relationally, that you only get so many of those before you buy something before the guy goes like, stop wasting my time.
That's fair.
So I had understood the math of it, to the tune of about 800 to 1,000 properties that I had already looked at, run numbers on, understood before we went to a point where I said, okay, hey, bank, this is something I'm very serious about trying to do. Here's how I see it. Here's what I think we can do moving forward. And then submitting all of that to the bank, in that first deal, it was very smooth and efficient because I knew my numbers. I was confident in what I had and what package I sent to the bank for it as far as a partnership goes there. They look back at me like a seasoned vet, even though I had nothing under my belt. So, hey, you sent me all the information I was expecting to have to be able to understand and confidently say, what you're talking about. they were super happy, and, it made a good deal for us.
So you figured out collaboration is the magic. It's not adversarial. They're a partner.
Oh, 100%. There's nothing more important in business than collaboration.
Yeah. We find the same thing with our very high and ultra high net worth individuals, the private family offices. They're there. They need somebody to be able to, it's trust. You need to know your numbers. And you got to realize they need an upside on their end. Make it easy to do business with you. Tell me about driven acquisitions and how did you begin and what is your niche?
So driven acquisitions is, for lack of a better word, my holdings company and my real estate. Okay. So same thing. We take everything for me is all S Corp assigned. So everything flows back to me taxability wise. So if I got a bucket on the left hand over here that has a lot of active income and profits over there, then, gold being over here on this hand, I have another business that, has a lot of active losses, at least on paper. And so driven acquisitions was my, I hate the word shell corporation, but shell corporation to put a level of protection between tenants and people in multifamily and in my direct arrangement there to provide some safety to us as far as, who owns a property is no longer an easy Googleable thing. And then at the same point, then allow that company to hold and maintain essentially the paper losses so that at the end of the year, I have a company with a lot of money that comes in over here. And then I have a company that loses a lot of money over here. They are hopefully going to net out or come very close to it. So it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
So tax efficiency was, somebody brought that into your knowledge at an early age. I want to salute you for that.
No, absolutely. I mean, that was probably the third video on Grant Cardone was his conversation on taxes and how real estate's used to mitigate any potential tax liability there. Using those same principles, now we have a situation where anything I own, our goal always is to, if I'm not able to 1031 into something very quickly, to trade properties quickly to not owe that tax now and kick the tax bucket down the way. No problem. I plan for, I'm going to have a big income bump here with capital gains. Excellent. And so when that situation happens, it's forecasted out, generally speaking, 90 to 180 days from today. Hopefully, I know that I'm planning to sell properties in May and June this year. So, okay, knowing that I have 6 months left of the year, that if I'm not able to find something quickly and efficiently to 1031, I need something on the horizon that's large enough that I can go ahead and have that big enough price gap between market today and that forced appreciation portion to go ahead and then pay for a cost segregation study to have done and take all of my tax benefit from the next 20 years forward to this year to then offset that big chunk of cash that we just had come in that would be tax due.
Very, very good. What do you see as the soundest investment in real estate today?
Ooh. The problem with that is the word today. Part of my point now is in getting in the right rooms are talking about crypto and digital real estate. And so I don't understand any of it when it comes to the digital side of stuff, but I know that the world is trying to go in that generalized direction. So, anytime you can be in the tech bubble before the tech bubble was a tech bubble and ride the wave, your easiest place to current appreciation is probably going to be in that digital space for those that understand it. Okay. They're not going to be hunting and pecking in the dark as much as somebody like me. Outside of that, real estate right now is complicated. Tangible, hard assets out there. There's money coming from all over the world to take every bit of land that us in the United States have available for sale. You go to Saudi Arabia and property there, what they can earn on it as money goes is going to be 1%, 2%. In a terrible market in Ohio, not in Ohio, but in the United States, say Miami or California per se. Those properties in their worst paying areas of investment are paying 3% and 4%. And so to take money from, essentially the desert that's making nothing and take it to what we would call as Americans, a terrible opportunity for our money to go to work, they're happy because it's doubling the points that they would make in there. So now we're fighting not against, the guy sitting in a room next to me or me against you in New York. With funds and availability to go out and buy stuff. Now we're fighting against people from unknown nations that are sending in, cash offers of wires on things that we're not even able to do diligent on or triple check anything, because if I'm looking at something that's got a 10%, potential risk reward to me, I'm going to make 10% on my money. If you got a bunch of cash from somewhere that's going to make 2%, that's an 8% spread on your cash for error. So, hey, I got to dig up the foundation and replace all of the footer drains. And hey, there was 2 units that were below grade that are moldy, and to them, no big deal. All right, worst case scenario, I was coming in at 9 or 10%. So now I'm at 6. Hey, 6 is still 3 times what I would have got here. It's a win. For me, if I'm going to go in at 10, I got to be at 10, because I'm factoring what my debt is and everything else is. As an investor, I'm utilizing, the American way of leverage, and not necessarily trying to pay, straight greenbacks for anything that we're buying in my portfolio.
So the global community at this point is competitive.
Extremely.
And I'm hearing from the farming community, the ranches, multifamily.
Yeah.
There's a flush of cash out there at this point that's looking to get put to work with intelligent people like yourself that'll handle the management of it in the due diligence process. You illustrated that extremely well. How has the real estate market changed in the last couple of years, and where do you see it going?
So reiterating on real estate in the last couple of years, I think the good and the bad of what's going on in the world economy, Russia,
very good,
current events right now are going to lead us down a direction which we've all, everybody's seen this coming, right? Inflation's at an all-time high, gas prices are way up. The world as you know it went 2 years ago, and all real estate, single family, multifamily, every family, if it's got a door attached to it, is up 25% in a year and a half. And so at some point, over the last year, you've probably heard a lot of people talking about crossing their fingers. It can't keep going up. The prices can't go up forever. And, bringing it back to tulip mania and all of what, pick a bubble is. I think that at some point here, we're going to see a market correction. It can't be a bull market forever. So when the bear happens and the market corrects and the Feds are continuing to hike rates, when those rates go up, you have, less buyers. When you have less buyers, people have to lower prices for people to buy their inventory, or they sit on it. And so, those that are patient, the key word right now in real estate moving forward is patience, patience, patience.
Excellent.
Take what you can in cash. Cash is trash as far as cash, but find a cash equivalent for your cash that you have the ability to to gain liquidity to in a fairly short amount of time in the event an opportunity presented itself to you. So, you're looking at markets that allow you to have, say, a 30-day runway to exchange from a current investment that's going to yield you a couple percent, something super safe that's like to what it would be in the bank, but not necessarily sitting there doing nothing. That allows you to then move in and out of that fairly quickly to then allow you to, hey, this opportunity presented itself. Boom, I know that it's a great deal because we've looked at thousands of deals. So when this one comes to cross your plate again and you're ready and prepared for it, now you have the ability to move quickly because you're sitting on your cash. You have an exit strategy for your cash that was pre-planned to be quick and efficient. The guys that have big portfolios have their money stuck in stuff that takes time to move it are going to be real hurting here. When it comes to a correction like that, because now they're going to have to go sell inventory at very likely, even if they bought very well years ago and they're still in the profit on the way up here, they're still going to be trying to get good prices. So by the time you shake that all down and get through to where you have your liquidity pool ready to go and buy stuff, in real estate, the guys that were sitting ready right now will have already bought up all of the home runs, and you'll be looking for doubles at that point instead of, triples and home runs being abundant.
Timelines are hugely important to have that conversation with those that are investable assets. What is their horizon, use of funds? What does their vision of success look like? And let's make it work. You did something pretty amazing. You had a real estate video go viral with over 10 million views. That's impressive. Tell me about the video and how it helped you with your holding company.
So TikTok was a complicated app that came out a couple years ago. You wouldn't anticipate real estate to be the top line on video consumption. Kids making dumb videos, drunk people making things as entertainment. Mm-hmm. In my wildest dreams, I would not have anticipated this to have been the case. The video you're talking about was one that Austin Rutherford, a good friend and network of mine, happened to pull out his phone. He was at a mastermind. He spoke briefly on the abilities that TikTok is going to bring. A lot of people like myself and some that are a little bit more seasoned in this life, in this world, said much of the same point. There's no way, man. There's no kids are watching. There's no investors that are sitting around watching, TikTok videos all day, or they wouldn't be where they were at to be able to have bought anything that, of any kind of substance to it. And so we all kind of scoffed at it and kind of giggled like, yeah, this isn't real. Austin had been one of the first adapters to TikTok and had a decent sized following. I think he had a couple videos at that time that had around 1 million views on them. And so algorithmically speaking, TikTok was shoving a lot of traffic his way organically. He pulled out his phone. We were standing at the pool after in the afternoon. So we got done all day sitting in the boardroom. We, chopping it up. At that point, it's, the networking portion of a mastermind group gets together. So 5 or 6 of us run to the pool. We throw on our bathing suits. We go to the bar that's at the pool. Mm-hmm. We're just sitting around talking. And he pulls out his phone and he says, I'm going to shoot a quick video here, show you guys like how easy this TikTok thing is. Cool. Pulls out his phone real quick, holds it up in front of him, 6 10-second clips. And then in 10 seconds, edits them all together in the TikTok app and goes post. So he says, hey, I'm Austin Rutherford. I thought I was doing well in real estate, at that time, it was $10 million or so in real estate and however many doors. And he goes, but let me just show you, what group I'm with here. And he goes around to the other group of guys that we're with. And a couple of the guys have, there's a wealthy group of people. So, they're all hundreds of units, thousands of units, hundreds of single family homes, $40, $50 million portfolios. Ends with one of my mentors, Tim Bratz, with $400 million portfolio, 3,000 some odd doors. So it's a short video. I think the video length was somewhere around 1 minute total. And so he posts it. No big deal. No thought. We didn't think anything else to it. We come into the next morning in the boardroom. And when we got to the boardroom, there was already like 1.5 million views on the video in 12 hours. And so we joke, we're like, well, that's officially at that time, it was his biggest video that he'd ever, had viewers on and whatnot. We were all tagged on it. So it was like, all right, cool. It's driving traffic to us. Our pages are all growing, Instagram, all the backlinks are set up. And we had joked that it was off. And now what happens is that video keeps getting reshared on so many different platforms and so many different things. It's now gone viral through Instagram by itself. So platform to platform, it's jumped the deal onto. As recent as 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had somebody resend it back to me and say, hey man, I think this is you, in the video, and they're from other countries. I get messages from that, network wise, when you see that the actual reach of some of what this stuff is just insane. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I was impressed with the video. In other words, the quality was there and you had really an honest communication, with the viewer at that point. And it was just ad hoc, meaning you didn't plan it. You really, on the execution side, it was just really nice, when you have this honest dialogue, and people are coming forward and nobody's in suits, everybody's in leisure at this point, but everybody's accomplished. In this case, it was in real estate. So that mastermind, I just want to, again, salute you that you put yourself in a position where you're surrounded by some very brilliant and accomplished individuals, and you're listening and learning the concept, in which we'll go into what we're going to do with our younger generations, but it's lifetime learning. It's not like at the university and you're done. It's no. It's lifetime. So
yeah, and the biggest thing with that, the thing that makes me laugh so much is that when Instagram and Facebook and whatever social media platform goes around having everybody trying to have amnesty on their school bills of 40 or 50 grand, we look at that and we go, well, welcome to the minors. In the big leagues, we spend 50 to 100 every year to be in the rooms with the right people and the masterminds of this. We don't get a piece of paper to put on the wall, but the education never stops. And so for 10 years, at that pace, now my schooling has cost me over $1 million of school costs, right? To do that. And so when you start to look at that and you start to talk to people and bring them in, it's like, 50 or 60 grand to go to school, to go to a good school is nothing. The problem in the mindset, like where we're going here with the younger people into it, is that they think that they've arrived. I got my piece of paper and I'm done. And it's a lifetime commitment, whether you like school or not. In some facet of education, you need to make that a priority.
Agreed. You have some important mentors. Who are they and what did you learn from them?
We've already touched on some of them. Grant Cardone, definitely going to be my number one, biggest, most influential. Mentorship, I feel like there's tiers in every situation. When we're talking about coaches and mentors, and life has many different fluid aspects to it. It's not just business. It's, health, wealth, fitness, family. And so I make sure to align myself within my coaches and mentors to facilitate education and hold me accountable. So that's the biggest thing that you get in a coach. Mentorship and coaching's biggest, most important job isn't to just give you a bunch of information. It's to hold you accountable on the things that you say you want to do within that space. We all know that we have vices all day, every day that are not our best, highest use of time or healthiest, use of restaurants, whatever. We have choices to make and we have to live with those choices. And so until we get somebody that's going to, your mom and dad only hold you accountable until you're 18. So what happens to the kid that's out of college? He's 25 or 26 years old and no longer has that accountability partner besides mom and dad chiming in, making jokes, right? Passive aggressive jokes that, hey, you're going to be a potato chip truck driver for the rest of your life if you don't get your life together, but no actionable accountability in making them better, well-rounded, above and beyond that, most of the time, because they only had an education level that went to a certain point and then stopped. And so, society has this merry-go-round of, here's what my mom had, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to replicate it with me. And then when I do it, I'm going to replicate it with my kids. And until we really get out of that as our default as a society, children in understanding where we're at, what we're doing, and their own accountability to what they have, there won't and can't be any.
We thought at some point in time, our, let's say K through 12 would be addressing some of the, we're going to get into it right now, but the life lessons, how to be a mom, how to be a dad, what business looks like, the financial side of it. And you're seeing a gap in what they're really, at this point, it's getting even further to a direction that's very concerning, probably not just to me, but to many of my listeners. And the ability to speak out, and you're seeing the parents even in, some of the front of the board of education, and they're saying, look, stop the nonsense at this point. The youth, they had learned. So let's move on. You have an interest in the younger generations and financial literacy. Do you see them as more or less financially literate than other generations?
Our children in 2022, as a society, are so absolutely screwed. Yeah. When I was a child, and I'm a young guy, right? So, we're not crazy outside of school here, When I was in school, I'm 99% sure I'm one of the last school classes, generations, that while I was in school had a class called home economics.
Okay.
Now children, they have deleted. And home ec, when I was a kid, was mostly cooking and sewing and, basic life skills in the brush. If I was out in the bush, I had to sew something up. And honestly, in my family here, when a button pops and we need a little something sewn, or my wife's dresses, whatever, while she's finishing her hair for the night, I get the, hey, can you come sew this? And if I were to ask any of my children to do that, who are in their teenage years now, not one of them could on their own pull it up and go, hey, I got to do that. And accountability, having this conversation with you right now, I've just now recognized that I have this giant hole that I need to now go. And so this weekend, you can bet your butt, my kids are going to be sitting down. We're going to be having home ec style. Here's how you run a stitch for you ever pop a seam in your jeans or whatever, because those things need to be taught. And if the schools aren't going to teach them, we have to take the responsibility as the parents. And until you get yourself in a situation where we're having conversations like this, focused on what is potential gaps and problems in your life, it's hard to recognize those without somebody that can tweak your perspective and or allow you to talk through some of the things that you have going on. Transparently, that was a blind spot that I had. Like I make it a point to teach my kids about money. Absolutely. Money, dollar bills, financial stuff. They are getting it, doing it. My youngest had a not a lemonade stand on Christmas because it was Christmas and cold, but he went out and colored a bunch of pictures of cars and went out and sold the paintings that he had made Christmas morning in the neighborhood. So we have no problem. And that was on sight unseen. He wanted to get something. He knows the rules. I want to get something. It's not, there's no, I'm just going to give it to you. So I got to do something to earn it. And so he knew that he found out what the dollar amount was for what he wanted to do. He wanted to go to Dave and Buster's and play video games. Okay. Right. So, okay, cool. Well, mom and dad are going to provide the transportation there. You don't have to worry about a vehicle, but hey, unless we had a birthday, something where we were planning to take you there, you want to request a reward of some kind like this. What is the exchange of value here? Did you clean up, help around the house and earn it by chores? Or did you go out and earn the money that needed to be had in order to do the activity that you wanted to do? So I want to go play video games. I need $15 for, a game card that's going to last me an hour or so. He knows in his head, he's got to go earn $15. And so where can he do that? It's not snowing right now. So he didn't have the ability to go shovel driveways. And I mean, I was dumbfounded. I'm out in front yard. It was like 65 degrees Christmas this year. I'm outside, was cleaning one of my cars, and he came out of left field dragging a table to the end of the street. And I'm just mind blown right now of like, what are you doing? I have no idea what's going on. And he sits down. He doesn't even talk to me. He's just in the zone, pulls out the chair, puts duct tapes down the sign in the front of it. I had to walk over like a potential customer just to see what my kid was doing. This is 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right around lunchtime. And sure enough, it's a beautiful day out. He saw people walking outside. So there was potential customers. And he went, what could I sell these people at 7 years old? And sure enough, he had two people buy pictures. He made $10, and mom and dad kicked in the other $5 to do it. It's just sheerly blown my mind.
You got a multimillionaire sitting there.
We joke all the time. It's the pinky and the brain situation.
It's inspirational, and I appreciate you sharing that with our listeners.
My pleasure.
One of the other value propositions that is available out there, our youth, a lot of them will play sports, which is fabulous. Some will do the scouting program. There is a personal management merit badge that addresses the financial and the planning of a major purchase. And the ability of a youth to spend time with their parents to understand what does it cost to run a home, acquire a car, the insurance, the payment on the car, upkeep, fuel, the home. In other words, you got a mortgage, again, insurance, utilities and things of that nature. And to have that dialogue and actually create a pro forma with the young person to say, these are the costs that it actually takes to run our household at this point. And then the other side of it is, major purchase, maybe they're going to buy a TV in the home, and the young person needs to go out and shop consumer reports, what particular model and why, and where are we going to competitively? We're going to shop in Amazon, Best Buy, some of the other outlets, maybe locally. And I think that's a really positive. Also, there's good debt and bad debt that's being discussed. The idea that we can use the money for an investment versus the credit card debt.
Yeah.
So, in buying doodads versus a planned purchase and execution of something you want to acquire. But again, like your son, he went out and he earned the money. So I just leave that as a resource to our listeners, that scouting works. Now girls can join the program and the boys, and they are run. What would you tell the younger generation about financial literacy, and what are the important points?
Well, so the biggest thing for young kids now, especially with the way that they have they have no problem with the way that digital technology, social media is so available to them and their ability to navigate it. And so finding somebody that's in the lane of something they have passion in, that they also have the lifestyle that they deem intriguing to what they could potentially want to live their life in, is important. So identifying first and foremost, what do I want my life to look like? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, whatever, where do I want to live? Do I want to have a family and children? And looking to the future for young people in high school, say, so high school age kids, I would want them and their parents to start aiming them to find out what it is that they have passion for.
Excellent.
How many and what their life looks like down the line, 5-6 years after high school. So I want to, ideally, my ideal scene is what my team, my wife, and I, and all of that call is. So what is my ideal scene this date and time in the future? And so for me, then I can take a tangible thing and I can do the math. I'm a terrible student. You give me a book to read, I can't tell you what the daggone book said. I got to read it 10 times, but I'm going to figure it out. I got to read it 10 times. So school was not my thing, but math after high school, man, I haven't had anything more that in the tangible mathematics of arithmetic and multiplication, dollar bills. I am a fantastic math student nowadays. So we can do the math backwards from that ideal scene. So ideal life is this. How much does the house cost? What does the car cost? What does, I have a wife. What does she cost? Does she work? Does she not work? Do I have children? How many children? And identifying that life, that weekly, monthly, yearly, annual cost, you can then go backwards and say, on this day, I need, this day in the future, I need to be able to earn this income, that day, that income, that day income. And even at the day of my ideal scene, when I want that to shut down, this is what I need to be able to earn. And so we can select in high school moving forward, our future plan, our roadmap of what my income has to be. So many people get stuck on today's thing that may or may not facilitate them tomorrow or the future's road, right? We're at the roundabout driving in a circle. There's all kinds of paths coming off of it. And they're like, yeah, man, today I just want to be on the roundabout. When it comes time to jump off the roundabout, more often than not, they're just willy-nilly jumping off in a direction, call it 45 degrees. So there's 3 or 4 paths that go in that generalized direction towards whatever they want. But if you don't plan out the path to get there, that road may hang a left turn and though it left the roundabout in the direction they wanted to go, a year down the line, now it's twanged over here and it's nowhere near even the same direction as they planned and anticipated to go. And so no different than if I were to pick up here in Kansas City and say, I'm going to come out and see Cliff, and I just closed my eyes, got on the first highway and said, I think I got to go that general direction, and kept driving that way. It would take me absolutely forever if I ever even reached you in New York. And so obviously the other side of that coin is to plan. I'm going to you. I know my destination. And now I can plan between where I am and there, my exact route to get there, and find out what that looks like in real life.
You're really talking about goal setting.
Goal setting is huge. And most people the difference is goal setting and vision board casting. Excellent. They're 2 different things.
Let's talk about it.
Right. And so I think a lot of people have it in their head, especially younger people, of the, let's just stick all the fun, fancy stuff, like what's behind me. Okay. Right. So this is a brand my wife and I own. It's called My Wife Will Cut You. And we do couples coaching, entrepreneurial couple coaching. That's why the brand is that way. Okay. But we got Mr. Moneybags, the Monopoly guy, all the cash stuff. So you could say this is a vision board to a degree. I'm going to stick that on there. I'm going to go over here and tape on a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, we got the private jet over there. So for me, it to a degree, it's a vision board for me. It gets me excited because at some point or another, I want my logo on the side of a jet. I plan to become wealthy enough that I can fly where I want, when I want, how I want, and not have to mess with all the minutia in between, because as every financial design knows, a jet is a terrible investment. It's no worse. It's much worse than a boat. But it allows me to then control what at that point, when and if we get to a point where we can buy a jet, we understand that time is more important than the money now. So though this is going to lose out a bunch of money, it is now buying me an additional quantity of time that I wouldn't have already otherwise been able to have access to. And so, but that's your goal setting. So right now it's a vision board, right? I have it planned out on my goals, how to get the jet. I need this level of income to be able to facilitate buying a $25 million jet. And so as we work back, I have milestones that I can say we're on the right track or not, and keep myself accountable to performance indicators. And so a vision board is going to be what you see a lot of young people get into of that life. So they're identifying their end of the rainbow thing, the shiny objects. What are all the shiny objects? I want to have an iced out, blinged out, $10,000 necklace. Well, I would hope that all of us listening to this and talking about it with our children are facilitating a conversation away from that specific goal. But in high school, that may be something that they're going to see on social media and all these other places where they're just getting whacked all day long with incoming information that's unfiltered. And so teaching our children to filter the information that's coming into them at the speed that it is, for the good information, the bad information, and being able to identify the false, fake information.
Very good.
The guy that's sitting on the front of somebody else's Lamborghini and going, I want to be just like this guy. Meanwhile, that guy doesn't own or have any of the stuff he has never created a business that paid for any of it. And he's literally earning from selling the dream and vision to all the little kids that are going to buy his t-shirts or whatever. And so it's a really backwards financial trap that can potentially happen. But if we outline that and teach them that we want to set the target where we're at, and then do that math of that goal setting backwards to say that today I'm here, I understand exactly where I'm at. I need to learn this skill set in the next 6 months. 6 months from now, I have a skill set that I can go get a job. 6 months from now, I want a job. By the year from now, I want to have key employment that is moving me in the direction of my goal. And eventually my goal will allow some of the stuff on my vision board, the fun, fancy, schmancy, shiny object stuff to potentially come my way. But there's a path here that the kids in delayed gratification, especially, everything is so fast. At the click of a button, you can have it here, Amazon, you can order it right now. And if it's by noon, the thing that it boggles my mind is when my wife hits purchase on something and it's here the same daggone day. It's 7:30. It's we're talking about it at lunchtime and she's like, all right, cool. I made an order. It says it'll be here tomorrow, next day. Okay, that's feasible. And then magically it shows up on my doorstep at 8:00. The camera goes off and somebody's out front with a package and you go, how is that even possible? I didn't even have 12 hours to have buyer's remorse and cancel an order and say, I didn't really mean to do that, but that's life now. And it's only going to continue to get faster to where a drone throws a package out of the sky in 4 hours instead of 8. And so without children understanding the real importance of delayed gratification, that first 8 years that I was making 6 figures and taking a $200,000 to $400,000 cash, bonus from the company that went into that sacred account while living like a pauper, I could have bought the car a year too. I could have had a mansion type house. I could have lived lavishly in my early mid 20s, like none of my friends did. Instead, I lived like all of my friends that lived with their parents or whatever, in similar size houses and did similar things. There was moments where we would take a big win and we'd say, all right, let's treat ourselves a little bit. But, when I'm treating myself with a $2,500 team night dinner, something like that, but at that same moment, I put $250,000 in the bank account to go buy real estate with in the future. I can afford it. That it's not the other way around. I didn't put $2,000 for future investment and then cash a $200,000 check, go buy a Ferrari. And so that first 5 years, when you start to make good money, when you get out of the 40s and 50s, $60,000 and you've set your path financially for the future and you're putting money away and it starts to flow in and you hit that first 6-figure year and learn that 6 figures of income is really $49,000 because you pay 50,000 of it to the IRS because you don't know what you're doing yet. And so when all of that starts to happen, You have 5 years from that first 6-figure paycheck that you receive to say, I need to take every nickel I make above and beyond what I have to live on my current life. I'm not going to upgrade my life at 100 and go live and tap myself out financially. I'm going to stay right where I'm at, and I'm going to only add all the income. And as I do, I'm going to shove it in this corner here. And then I'm going to educate myself on where I want that money to go eventually. I plan the road back. I'm doing this job, and in a parallel industry as my job allows me to passively either give that money to somebody else, or I'm going to parachute out of this industry to a very similar one that I've already built a bunch of skill sets around, and use that money to springboard me into opening whatever business or partnering with somebody, or, through all the mentorship and learning skills. I found a guy that's doing things, and he's actively doing it to where I don't need to understand it. I can trust that he's doing it. I know a lot of people they've done business with, and their money always goes away, and it comes back to them, with a 2x multiple in 2 or 3 years. So you eventually take that money and you go, hey man, I think I'm ready to do something. Here's $200,000. It's all I have in my life. I don't want to die, please. When that money starts to make it, so you're 5 years in, you send all of your money away and you plant it in the ground, you water it, you wait for the sun to come, the time it takes for that money to then produce a crop. That what happens when you have vegetables and crops, right? You have vegetables, and then in order to do that, the cycle of fruit and veggies and everything that grows out of the ground is that seeds grow with those. And so now as that's growing up, instead of growing up in one stalk, it's growing up and making multiple fruit. That multiple fruit that honey pot of money is now also has multiple seeds. So what was one seed now is 5 seeds. Now you take those 5 seeds, you plant them again, and you do that a couple times. And each time you do it, you take a multiple of 10%. That means 90% of that money is in this perpetual cycle of re-upping itself, because you don't need that money to live. That money is 100% that pot of gold for the future you, 5, 10, 20 years, to buy your jet, to live in your $1 million house, to never have to work again when you're 35 or 40 years old as a young person. So you take those just the nibbles, just a little bit enough to go on I'm going to take the family and we're going to go, first class tickets to Disney and do the front of the line, skip the tickets, and maybe you rent a really, really nice house that for you, vision casting 10 years from when you started this whole thing was the house that you thought you could live in. So before you ever get there, now you've tasted it for a weekend, and you can say, is this, and we can refine our goal. Is this really where I want to live now? I spent a week there. Do I like the neighbors? Do I like the hood? Does it feel right? Do I want it to be bigger? Do I want it to be smaller? Do I want it to have more land or less land or be in a neighborhood? And now when you take that and you go back, you're super excited and rejuvenated because you did something you as a young person before you got there ever thought was possible. The first thing I did when for me, this exact situation, talking from life experience, my first thing after I had seeds planted and I had fruit growing and I replanted it was I took my entire company, at the time, 8 of us, I took them down to a $6 million house in Miami, right on the ocean. We rented an Airbnb in North Miami Beach. And it was amazing. I flew down my trainer along with us. And so we had 5 a.m. sunrise workouts on the beach as staff. And so, as an entrepreneur, it allowed me to share my vision with what I'm trying to do and how we got there with all of them. And not only did I get a taste, but I got to share the taste with those that are in the trenches with me working to now help them refine and put fact, tangible things, breadcrumbs per se of, here's what I'm saying to you guys every day. And I think at some point I'm going to have this thing. And so between here and there, I'm explaining that these are the steps that we're going to get there. So when I hit that step and I go and do it and I bring my team with me for it, now they get to be a part of it and go, wow, okay, so the third step is we do something like this. That's pretty cool. And so now now we refine their vision of what they want so that when they get to their point, now they have the opportunity to go and do. And as a successful person, potentially financially, nothing in life is more rewarding to me than those that I've brought to that situation or have coached to that situation when I get the text message that they're there, or I get an invite to go be a part of it and continue the vision forward. While we're in that space, there's nothing more rewarding on this world.
You're paying it forward. I'm very excited to see you consistently understanding. It's always about the team.
Yeah.
And then bringing their skill sets up and their vision of what success looks like. So you got the company, which is really your vision at this point, you and your wife, and then allowing them to build on that vision, but be totally aligned on what you're looking to deliver, a high value to the customer, and make it repeatable, make it look easy. And of course, there's a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes, but it allows you to thrive, and the team is thriving right together. It's sustainable. And I think that's extremely important. You offer private equity in some of your deals. What made you branch out into those offerings?
So private placement cash, when we buy something, there's two reasons behind that. I try to buy really big properties.
Okay.
And so in buying really sizable properties, I have to maintain a certain level of liquidity pool so that I can deal with and operate all of the back end stuff with the bank. Okay. And so if we're buying multi-million-dollar properties and I have to bring $1 million, $2 million to the table at close, or $20 million to the table at close, the ability for me to bring all of that cash to the table may wipe out a lot of my cash reserves, which then would make me ineligible for the liquidity requirement for the loan. So breaking off, one of my mentors, same thing, right? Being intelligent with people that are around, said something really profound to me about 10 years ago. And that was that I'd rather have a bite or 10% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. And so for me to bring private equity and bring people into the fold, two things happen with that. Three things. One being that the more people I can bring in, that's more eyeballs that are going to bring future deals to me. Okay. I'm only able to, select so many deals because I'm only able to hunt and peck for so many. So, but if I have 10 times the amount of eyeballs out there that are looking for, elderly people that would like to retire and have properties that haven't been sitting on the market and haven't been sold a whole bunch of BS from a broker that, their turd is really a diamond, I can get in front of those people and broker a deal together that makes sense, and then offer equity in the deal, and a couple different structures as far as that goes. Sometimes it's equity, sometimes it's a straight commission, depending on financials. Obviously, as equity goes, we don't make our money for sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So if it's somebody that's more in a job and they're like, I need cash like now, I get the equity, or a hybrid where, okay, here, let's pay your bills for the next 2 or 3 weeks or month or whatever. You have other commissions that could be coming in, and so we'll split it half and half. Let me give you a smaller chunk today, and then give you a couple points of equity for, on the back end, because tax savings on that, all of that comes through. And, even if you're aligned on somebody else's deal in a syndication like that, 5%, 3%, 10%, you have the requirement to essentially have watched, seen how the deal went, paid attention to what's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening. It may not be your name going on the loan. It may not be, your butt if the loan and the interest and all of the things default. But if you're trying to understand what's happening, there's no way quicker to get all of the moving parts from beginning to end than riding shotgun with somebody that's willing to say, hey, I'll take your cash. And so since you helped me out, I'm willing to invest my time into you to teach you X, Y, and Z what's happening, tag you on the emails of what's happening, go walk the property and say, hey, I'm going to walk the property. You're welcome to join me. It's at this day and this time. Offer those opportunities up so that they have the ability to, in the future, do a deal on their own. The other side of that coin is depending on where it is. So, in real estate, there's three different types of people. You got a guy that brings you a deal. You got a guy that brings you cash. And then you got a guy that normally deals with the bank and is dealing with the debt on the situation. Sometimes you could do multiple of those, but for the most part, if you're like, I have no cash and there ain't no bank ever going to give me anything, how can I ever buy real estate without my own money? Because I can't do it. Well, you could definitely do something that requires nothing but sweat equity. And that's to go find and talk to, rub elbows with, go to the golf course and hang out with the guys that have property, et cetera, and find somebody that would be willing to sell, their property to a guy like me. And I'll put together the debt and the cash. And then same thing, we're back to, do you want equity or do you want a commission check for that? Or we got a guy saying that's on the other thing. You got a doctor or whatever that's, I don't have any time to mess with anything real estate minded, but the markets are crap. Crypto's up and down. I don't like it. I want to stick my money where I can buy something that is tangible. I could look at it, makes me feel good and know that, hey, I own that piece. That's never going to go away, et cetera. It's insured. It's fine. And so that guy would be somebody that would come to me and say, hey, I want to just give you the money. I don't want to ever even know it's there. I want every quarter on the 15th, you to just stick a check in my account, maybe shoot me a text and say, hey, I got another deal, whatever. And then that is the only kind of passive income there ever is. As an operator of the real estate myself, nothing I'm doing is passive because I'm responsible for the loan and all the other things that go into it to where, it's my butt if property management doesn't do what they have to do. So I still have to keep my eye on what's happening, even if I'm not knocking the doors and saying, I need rent, blah, 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 you're behind, we got to evict you, and dealing with the headaches of the day-to-day operation. I'm still not quite passive in it because I can never say out of sight, out of mind, somebody else wire me a check, in that situation.
You're an active investor. Let's just be honest with each other.
Very much so, yes.
So when I look at my listeners at this point, you may have some children that you'd like to get seasoned. So the idea of the very high and ultra high net worth individual may take one of their children that's maturing and provide them some assets to come with you, to be part of the syndication and to learn, mature, and grow up and understand what the collaboration looks like and to do real estate. So it may not be on the parent to do that foundational education, but you can empower that young person because they have the wherewithal and the assets to be able to put it to work. But now by providing some of that seed capital to the child, the young person and family to go out and work with seasoned individuals, it brings their confidence up. It reduces the nonsense that may be going on inside some of the families, meaning some of the social stresses. The universities are not going to do the education. There's no way in hell they're going to do it. They're not doing it. I mean, you can come out with an MBA, you'll understand what a pro forma, P&L and a profit cash flow analysis looks like. But actually going out there and being part of and doing the deal is a radically different education. Let me ask you, what do you see as the trends of private equity at this point?
So a lot of equity we're getting in the last couple of years, we've found the ability to run through self-directed IRAs.
Okay.
And so a lot of private equity that we're getting and giving away and working, shoulder to shoulder with this is coming from that retirement money that's in there that isn't earning or is earning safely 2 or 3% because it is their retirement. So the investor that's running the account there is, he's got his gloves on risk averse everything and stay in the markets that guarantee returns. And that always returns less. And so having the ability to self-direct out of that, not pay any penalties for it, and then put it directly into real estate. Same thing with anybody that's got kids. They want to put it, we can move the money through the IRA and keep it for a long-term play, but allow them to all the benefits of the education that come along and learning about how that works. That was a game changer for me. I actually learned all about the IRA situation, the way to work the deal to allow to be able to take that at that same exact mastermind standing at that pool that video went viral.
Very good. The Roth IRAs, in other words, being able to put that money to work in a tax-free environment and kick that can down the road, and it may be generationally being kicked down the road, those taxes that are involved. It's brilliant. It's I'm finding some 529s are providing some value at this point. You may not even use the money for the education, but again, there's some brilliant individuals out there, and it's very compliant, and it allows some tax savings to take place for our high net worth individuals. Is there anything I haven't touched on that you would like to add or expand on?
I mean, realistically, up, down, and sideways, we've gone every which way we can go. I think about anything that I've ever done in my life. Hopefully I've added some value to your listeners. I think, For me, it's easy to get a hold of me. Find me online. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media places at Joshua Steinberger.
Spell me your name so they get it correct.
No problem. Joshua, Joshua, last name Steinberger. You can also find me in the coaching aspect and my wife when it comes to relationship and whatnot. The website's one that you'll never forget. It's mywifewillcutyou.com.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, also backlink to everything to be able to get a hold of me. So you forget my name, who, what, where, when I was. Don't forget my wife will cut you.
Well, I'm glad you have a special relationship with her and you have 3 wonderful children. I think it's really positive. I want to thank you so much for your time, Joshua. I appreciate you being here today. You illustrate where drive and determination can take us, and your passion for helping others is inspiring. Thank you to our listeners. I look forward to being back with you shortly for another episode of the Private Equity Profits Podcast. This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC.